Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:07. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company. It's the first day of August. That's right. 7 months down as we charge through 2024, heading right to Election Day. Thanks for joining us on this journey, this roller coaster ride. Coming up at 6:35, Tiffany Polifko, formerly of the Loudoun County School Board, talk about that school system's attempts to unionize. 7:05, Harrison Fields from the Trump campaign on the National Association of Black Journalists scene yesterday. 7:15, Rob O'Donnell on the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed story. 7:35, Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman on the increase in violent crime at the hands of illegal immigrants, latest a grandmother killed in a carjacking. And then 8:05, K.T. McFarland. It's Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp. And we've promised you on Monday. It just struck me over the weekend that the mainstream media, the legacy corporate media, for the most part, have just pretty much ignored the biggest story of the year that only happened 19 days ago. The attempted political assassination of the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, the current Republican nominee for president. This is a man who the leadership of the left politically in the Democratic Party, but also in academia, pop culture, every level of intelligentsia in this country. This is a man who has been referred to as the second coming of Hitler, a fascist, an authoritarian, a totalitarian. That democracy is at stake in this election. If he wins, it'll be the last election we ever have. And then, well, frankly, it's no wonder that someone tries to put a bullet in his head. And then here we are 19 days later, although it didn't even take 19 days. It took about 10 days for those who call themselves journalists and media analysts and reporters in this town covering the government and covering D.C. politics to just ignore the story. Somebody put out on the X platform, formerly Twitter, somebody put out a statement yesterday, which just absolutely confounds me that this is exactly where they are, though, this elitist, leftist liberal. His name is Scott Shapiro. He's a professor at Yale Law School. He put out a picture of Donald Trump with his fist raised in the air and the flag behind him and Secret Service trying to protect him. And he said, incredibly, this wasn't the biggest political story of July.
Wow.
And that's the most incredibly stupid thing I've ever heard. Not only, it's the biggest political story, no, it's the biggest story, regardless of politics, of the year. A man tried to put a bullet in Donald Trump's head, and it clipped his ear, literally clipped his ear. Mercedes, this story, you and I will always be connected on this story for the rest of our lives because we were together when this happened.
That is right.
Watched it and had our shared reaction at the time. So I guess I give you that long preamble to tell you that I am still emotionally affected by this incident, and I know that you are too. And it is maddening that those elites who tell us that they're the real media people, they're the real journalists, have just ignored the story. Well, we're going to continue with it, and today is no exception. Yesterday, a new video has emerged. Fox Digital acquired it. Now, I give them credit, Fox News Digital. Again, it's radio, so I want to just describe it. This is from the vantage point of behind and to the left of Donald Trump. In other words, kind of right in the line of fire. I imagine that the bullets that missed Donald Trump actually made contact with people sitting just next to or near the camera person, the person who is capturing this video of Donald Trump. In the background, not very far away, as everyone has noted, is the building, the rooftop from which the bullets were fired, where the sniper found himself, the famous sloped roof. Now, we were told in testimony on Tuesday by the acting director of the Secret Service that the counter snipers who were on a roof above Donald Trump behind him could not see the sniper until he popped his head up from the other side of that sloped roof and fired shots. We now know that that must have been a lie. Because in this video, you see the would-be assassin, the man who fired those bullets, murdering a Trump supporter in the crowd. You see him running across the roof line. to get to his sniper position, Mercedes. It is the most harrowing video, knowing who this was and knowing what he was about to do. And one looks at this video, and it is hard to come up with any other explanation other than the Secret Service indeed saw him there, indeed knew that there was a suspicious person, knew that that person had a rangefinder, and saw a person in a perfect position to take a shot at Donald Trump and did absolutely nothing about it.
Nothing.
And now they are lying about it. That's only reasonable conclusion to reach.
Let's step back. If there weren't the congressional committee hearings, we wouldn't even be talking about the assassination attempt. The media has already, it literally went from the assassination attempt, Trump's assassination attempt, to Kamala Harris's coronation as the Democrat nominee and how great she's doing on our campaign. This assassination attempt, the enormous amounts of failure that has come from the Secret Service, from local law enforcement, the mere fact is of like no audio, radio recordings of what was happening, as more and more, no regular updates from the FBI or from the Secret Service as to what's happening in this investigation, and then a complete almost blackout from the legacy media in terms of the assassination attempt shows how they're trying to make this into not a big deal. When you look at this video, when you see the fact that this shooter was able to get on the roof and have a direct line, to shoot the president.
And they saw him. They had to see him.
And they saw him 20 minutes beforehand. And they saw him 2 hours beforehand when the snipers were getting organized as to where they were going to position themselves. What a complete disaster. And you have to ask yourself, did any of these people know anything? Was there anyone else involved?
Listen to the testimony of Acting Director Rowe, the acting director of the Secret Service. This was on Tuesday under oath.
This view is a reenactment by one of my agents. Laying flat. There was a 5-inch rise on the middle of that roof. The assailant would have had to present his bore over that to get his shot off. The view underneath reflects the perspective that he would have had. Again, I call your attention back to the first exhibit, if they'd have looked left. Give me C.
What he's doing is showing the rooftop and from the vantage point of the counter snipers. And he's claiming that they couldn't possibly see him.
Counter sniper team saw. Shooter, no elbows. You barely make out the crown of his head. Below it, the assailant up prone.
Right. And so what he's trying to convey here is that the assailant crawled up that slope. You couldn't see him until he emerged right at the time that he took the shot. He went on to testify.
However, I would like to point out that based on what I know right now, neither the Secret Service counter sniper teams nor members of the former president's security detail had any knowledge that there was a man on the roof of the AGR building with a firearm. It is my understanding.
Now, that is a fascinating thing to say, because he specifically said they had no knowledge that there was a man on the roof with a firearm. You can see him running across the roof. So he needs to, flesh out this testimony a little bit, because the assumption is, they never knew there was anyone there. No. They had to have seen this man there.
Yeah.
They now will claim that they didn't know he had a gun. Does that matter? Does that matter that a man is running across the roof and you know you've got a suspicious person and you've lost track of him, and suddenly you see him running across the roof line while the president's out there? You either take a shot at him or you pull the president off the stage, Mercedes. You've got to.
And the other piece of this is that when they asked him specifically, well, if it would have been Biden, I think it was Senator Mike Lee, if it would have been Biden, would you have taken him off the stage? And they're like trying not to answer the question.
Right.
They're like, well, there were multiple people that were of concern. Yeah. No, you've got a man up there running on a roof, and you're all wondering what's going. I mean, that is just not normal. This
latest development, guys. You know this show. You know our personalities. You know how we deal with important issues, and we don't want to reach the worst conclusion. about people in this government. We're loath to do that. I can tell you, though, that the people in charge of making decisions that day for the Secret Service, they all seem to be partisan people who have been on the record denying additional security for Donald Trump and on the record saying that he was a threat to our country. And when you see this video, I understand why people reach the conclusion that they reach. We'll continue to talk about this topic. We'll continue to bring the facts to you so that you're informed, because we trust you with the truth. We trust you with the facts. There's a little bit more here, and I want to share it with you. A reporter now confronting the father of the man who was the attempted assassin, Crooks. We'll give you that in a moment. Sorry, I get a little emotional about this.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Here's cut 16. This is the FBI's Deputy Director, Paul Abate, Tuesday, under oath. Listen.
25 minutes prior to the shooting, the U.S. Secret Service command post was notified of a suspicious person. Officers lost sight of the subject from approximately 6:02 p.m. to 6:08 p.m., but continued to communicate with each other in an attempt to locate him. Recently discovered video from a local business shows the shooter pulling himself up onto the AGR building rooftop at approximately 6:06 p.m. And at approximately 6:08 p.m., the subject was observed on the roof by local law enforcement. At approximately 6:11 p.m., a local police officer was lifted to the roof by another officer, saw the shooter, and radioed that he was armed with, quote, a long gun.
All right, pause it
Within
there. That's about 30 seconds before the shots were fired. But again, about a minute or so, or 2 minutes before that, you have this video of him running along the roof line.
And if there would have been drone technology, if there would have been, local people were trying to get to the cops and say, "Hey, there's a guy running up on this roof." Let's go back to the fact that this was outside the security perimeter, and the Secret Service and law enforcement did not say, "Wait a second, if you have a guy with a gun, he can shoot the president from here." I mean, and
let's
then
put
on
this
top of
building
that,
inside the security perimeter.
Exactly. And then on top of that, denying access to additional resources because they decide this in quote unquote a war room within the Secret Service is completely outrageous.
It all
completely
adds up.
outrageous.
Yep. And to Mercedes' point that she made just a few minutes ago, if people at the FBI and the Secret Service and people within the Harris-Biden administration don't want reasonable, intelligent people to think the worst of this government, to think the worst of this administration, and to reach horrible conclusions about what happened on July 13th at the hands of the Secret Service, then they should have regular, 4 times a day briefings where they take questions from reporters and they answer everything that they know. And videos like this don't get discovered by Fox News Digital. They should be released preemptively. And the FBI director should not under oath say, there's some question as to whether President Trump was shot with a bullet or shrapnel. And then 5 days later have the deputy director said, there's never been a doubt that Donald Trump got hit with a bullet. The behavior is that of a government agency and or agencies that are trying to hide something from the American people about something that is so critically important. You talk about a threat to democracy. An assassin's bullet to the leading candidate for president is the greatest threat any democracy can face. All right, the father of the supposed assassin, Thomas Crooks, the alleged assassin, was caught in a parking lot by a citizen journalist, I believe, from Fox News Digital. And listen to this exchange from the man who is the father of the person who is the suspected assassin. Watch.
Mr. Crooks, was there anything that might have made you aware of what your son was up to?
Mr. Crooks, can you explain why your son has such a limited social circle?
Is there any statement you'd be willing to share with us right now, Mr. Crooks?
I gotta pee.
That's
Did
his
he just
statement.
say, "I got to pee"? Did
Yeah.
he just say that?
I gotta pee is his statement.
That's...
This is the man whose son's bullet nearly took the life of Donald Trump.
I mean, not even I feel horrible that my son tried to kill the President of the United States.
I gotta pee is a statement. Also, by the way, and take this for what it's worth, but walking with him was either a family member or someone from security. It doesn't seem like a security person because he's kind of short. He's wearing, this is in the middle of the hot season in western Pennsylvania at the last day of July. He's wearing a hoodie and he's wearing a COVID face mask over his nose and his mouth.
What?
Who dresses like that?
Oh, I see. Yesterday, literally in D.C., I saw this woman riding a bicycle.
Yeah.
Not with the hoodie, but with the COVID face mask. I almost crashed. I was like, "What?"
And this leads me to my point.
What's wrong with these people?
Well, it leads me to my point. If you had to ask Mercedes, that person riding a bike in D.C. with a COVID face mask on, who they're going to vote for this November, who do you think they're going to vote for? Right? I mean, it's kind of a telltale sign.
It's pretty obvious.
And that's the guy walking with the father of the would-be assassin yesterday, when his statement to the American people is, "I gotta pee." It's 6:24.
Wow. Now
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
36, it's O'Connor and Company, first day of August. Coming up at 7:05, Harrison Fields with the Trump campaign. Talk about the National Association of Black Journalists convention yesterday. 7:15, Rob O'Donnell, NYPD officer there on 9/11. Talk about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. 7:35, Loudoun Sheriff Mike Chapman will join us. Talk about that grandmother killed by an illegal alien carjacking. And at 8:05, KT McFarland. It's Larry O'Connor with Mercedes Schlapp. Good morning, Mercedes. Busy day here.
Hi, good morning.
Let me set this up as quickly as I possibly can. Ralph Northam, who, of course, you know, had his political future threatened by The Truth, a photograph of him either in blackface or in a Klan hood from his college yearbook. He was about to be forced to resign, but then because of various events involving other Democrats in higher office that had their own scandals, he was given a lifeline. He was saved by a big, powerful interest in the Democratic Party in the Commonwealth of Virginia. That includes the teachers union. The payback came in 2021 when Ralph Northam shoved through, with a Democrat majority in Richmond, shoved through a measure that would finally allow teachers to unionize in Virginia. Up until then, it was outlawed. No teachers union. Now, the teachers union had undue influence already, even without the benefit of collective bargaining. But Ralph Northam, to save his own lamentable political skin and to give a payback to the unions and maybe help Terry McAuliffe win election that year, that didn't work out, gave this huge gift to the unions. And Fairfax County, of course, has already voted to move forward with unionization, and now it's up to Loudoun County to decide if they will continue their lamentable trend of doing whatever the hell Fairfax County decides to do. Tiffany Polifko is a former member of the Loudoun County School Board, and she's got passionate feelings about it. She joins us now. Tiffany, did I set that up right? That's how we got here, right?
Oh, good morning, Larry and Mercedes. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on this morning. You are spot on. And I'll just back up for a moment and let you know that back in March of 2023, when I was serving on the school board, we took a vote to allow collective bargaining. I opposed that vote. And the reason I oppose that vote is because we do not need more bureaucratic, unelected agencies making decisions for we, the people who are paying our school boards. That vote added $3.3 million to fiscal year 2024 budget, along with 13 administrative positions. And I'm telling you that the vote for that now kicked off the resolution, which will be voted on August 13th. And that will kick off the negotiations between Loudoun County Public Schools and the Loudoun Education Association.
And people might think, oh, well, we want to do this to help the teachers and we want to make sure they get the benefits. First of all, teachers are not so bad in Loudoun County, number one, but set that aside. That's not really what this is about. This is about the political power of the union in selecting the school board members. They already have an undue influence, but just imagine if you allow them to unionize, then they have even more money to work with in Loudoun County. They get to pick and choose who the school board members will be, because then they'll be negotiating their next contract with the people that they've politically put in position to negotiate that contract.
Well, that's correct, Larry, and this is what's very important for people to understand. The majority of this school board will absolutely vote for this resolution to pass because they have already been bought and paid for by the Loudoun Education Association and or the Virginia Education Association Loudoun, which is really all wings of the same bird. This is what I say. They're wings of the same bird because these associations are sister children to the NEA, the National Education Association. This is the left-wing, radical, power-hungry teachers union that's led by Becky Pringle, who wants, if everybody remembers the viral video that went out, all the things. She wants all the things. And this is the woman who spent over $8,000 on hairstyling with NEA dues and kept hundreds of thousands of dollars. She pocketed all of this money while she fought to keep our children out of schools during COVID. And that is something that we will never forget. Right. I want to also make people aware that April Chandler, who is our Algonquian representative, took $500 from the VEA. Our at-large representative, Ann Donahue, took $750 from VEA. Our vice chair, Arbin Estrefi, took $500. Little River Representative Sumera Rashid took $500 from the LEA Political Action Committee, and Chair Melinda Mansfield was endorsed by the LEA. So these people are not going to vote because they have the best interests of children or teachers or parents in mind. This is radical Marxist ideologies coming from the NEA all the way down to the LEA. They want climate emergency activists, LGBTQ activists, DEI, anything but educating our children to read, write, and do math.
So we obviously saw just the ground zero in Loudoun County when the parents did get vocal, did get activated in protesting against so much of what Loudoun County the school board was doing. What can parents do now? I mean, we have this vote, you're saying August 13th, which, obviously it's in the middle of summer right before school, or the ending of summer right before school starts. What can be done to push back? Because it sounds like this is just inevitable.
Parents need to get involved, and we have been saying this in Loudoun County for years now. We obviously got activated during the COVID situation where we had our kids locked out of school. We saw the radical curriculum coming into place, but it really comes down to us, the people. It's not about waiting for your elected officials to make the right decisions, because we already know that they won't do it. Give them a 50-50 chance and they will choose the wrong thing. There has got to be a groundswell of people to step up, not even just to get onto the school board, but just be a voice. You don't need to be in an elected position to have the power. That's what people forget. The power should be coming from us. Yeah. But most importantly, we have to get to the ballot box. People need to wake up and stop voting for these people that want to take away your rights to hold the power. So all of these people should be voted out. And I say 2025, 5 of them are up for re-election. And it is never too early for us to start cultivating a grassroots ground movement to get these people out.
All right, August 13th is the upcoming board meeting where they're going to be voting on this, officially the final vote on this, Tiffany?
This will be the vote. This will be the expected vote,
okay,
if everything goes according to plan.
So you've all been notified. Vote. August 13th is the day to get out there and show a united front. And I just got to tell you, I know people in Loudoun County. I love people in Loudoun County. Majority of the people that I know there moved there for a reason. Because they didn't want to live in a place like Fairfax County. They didn't want to live in Alexandria. They didn't want to live in Arlington. They didn't want to live in Montgomery County. They didn't want to live in Washington, D.C. This vote could be the last step here in moving what you have right now, a close 50-50 kind of neighborhood right now, and your schools are still, you're able to have some voice in them. You let the teachers union in. You let this organization happen. It's done. Your school board will be the Fairfax County School Board in no time at all. So this is where you have to take your stand. Tiffany Polifko, thank you for joining us. It's always great to talk with you.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
It is 6:44 now.
Hey, it's Chris Plant. Find out what the media don't want you to know. Coming up this morning at 9, right here on WMAL.
We touched on this quickly yesterday, but we want to spend a little more time. This is the story of Jose Aguilar Martinez, 21-year-old, who just yesterday was arraigned on felony carjacking in Loudoun County. He is also going to be facing additional charges with the death of 54-year-old Melody Waldecker, a grandmother who was the victim of this carjacking in a 7-Eleven parking lot in Sterling. I'm told that one side of the parking lot empties into Fairfax County and the other side empties to Loudoun County. Thankfully, he turned into Loudoun County, so Sheriff Mike Chapman can handle the law enforcement aspects of this. He's going to be joining us to talking about this at 7:35. Listen to how Fox 5 reported. yesterday.
It's absolutely heartbreaking what happened right here in this parking lot. An innocent woman's life was taken. I mean, she was a mother and a grandmother, and it turns out the man allegedly responsible for her death is in the country illegally. 21-year-old Jose Aguilar Martinez is accused of carjacking 54-year-old Melody Waldecker outside the 7-Eleven at Town Center Plaza in Sterling, Virginia, and then running her over with her own vehicle, killing her. This happened in broad daylight around 11:30 a.m. Sunday morning.
I'm shocked. I'm disappointed. This is really scary.
Aguilar Martinez is charged with felony carjacking. He is currently being held at the Loudoun County Adult Detention Center without bond. ICE says the suspect is an undocumented immigrant from El Salvador. Sources tell Fox 5 he also has a criminal history.
Yeah, we hear this a lot. You just heard it. Well, I like Sierra Fox, but when you're in journalism, you're compelled to use certain phrases. In this case, undocumented, non-citizen, undocumented. Actually, he did have a document. In fact, he had an American document. He had a driver's license that was issued by Kamala Harris's California. In fact, Kamala Harris was the Attorney General when they passed a law that allowed illegal immigrants to obtain California driver's license. And, well, he certainly exercised that driver's license in Virginia.
Well, and let's be real. Kamala Harris wants to give free health care to illegal immigrants as well. Yep. But look, this story is so heartbreaking because, first of all, how many of us out there right now listening, we go to the 7-Eleven, we go quickly to go in, get whatever we need, get out. I mean, this could happen to anyone.
That's right.
To anyone. And here you have this innocent mother, grandmother, 54 years old. She could be your neighbor, and she's run over by,
of course,
by this man, by this illegal who has no right to be in this country. We've seen this time and time again where young girls are being raped and killed by illegal aliens, and yet the Democrats say, oh, you know what? Those quote-unquote undocumented individuals that are coming in, they don't commit as many crimes.
Right. They completely lie about it. And even further, Mercedes, and again, I know people who live right near this 7-Eleven. They've been giving me information directly about this. Increasingly over the months, thanks to the border disaster of border czar Kamala Harris, they have seen large groupings of young men just congregating in that parking lot all day long. And if you jump into the 7-Eleven and you see this group of young men just sort of hanging out in the parking lot and you look somewhat askance or suspicious of that, you're called racist. How dare you? How dare you? There's nothing wrong with those young men congregating. Leave them alone. And then one of them turns out to carjack and murder, allegedly.
Yes, an innocent woman.
This is the culture and society that has been groomed and promoted by the political left, led by the likes of Kamala Harris.
And it's why, when you look at these, there was a Harvard-Harris poll where you were talking about that 68% of independents believe that Kamala supports open borders. And then, you're talking about 69% of Americans say, yeah, Kamala does believe in open borders. And then you look at the same numbers where they're saying about 68% of American voters saying, we don't agree with her policies.
Yeah, there's a reason why they believe Kamala Harris stands for that, because she does. It's 6:53.
Making sense of your world.
I can't believe this.
News Talk 105.9 WMAL.
And I am so with you.
Making sense of the news.